Hey guys, Kevin is for Doctor Who, Series 9, Episode 5, The Girl Who Died, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode for, of course, the reason being that Maisie Williams was guest starring, and they've kept her character so secret. Like, they haven't said anything about her. There's been all this speculation about her. I was really looking forward to seeing how that was going to be, but this episode really wasn't about her, I have to say. In fact, I think this episode is probably the most surprising episode of this season, because I found this episode to be a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be. It was probably the best episode of the season, honestly. I think it was better than The Magician's Apprentice. I really do. Mainly because of the fact that it was really funny, but it was actually really funny at points, also really dramatic, but it also really got into the Doctor's head, and I think gave what I think is Peter Capaldi's best performance on this show so far. I think he was incredible in this episode, and I really loved it. And out of all the two-parters we've gotten, this was the episode that felt the most season finale-ish. Even though this is only part 1, it very much felt like a season finale at points, which I definitely really love. But let's get into this episode, and a lot to talk about. We start off in the middle of a mission, actually. Clara's is floating in, which I don't think is ever something that they've really done, which I think is really cool, but they kind of start in the middle of this, and Clara's floating in space, crying out to the Doctor for help, and the Doctor's tied up in some kind of battle in the TARDIS, and we don't really know what it's about, and Clara's some kind of creature in her spacesuit. She describes her surroundings to the Doctor, and she screams as she finds herself on board the TARDIS. The Doctor tears off her helmet, killing the creature inside by stomping on it, and the Doctor walks out to wipe his feet on the grass. And just from that scene, what I really liked about that scene is just the fact that we don't fully know what's going on, but that's not what's important. What's more important is the fact that we just know that there was a mission here. And the Doctor and Clara then have a conversation about the rules of time travel, and I like what the Doctor tells her. There really are no rules. There are no rules, not really something we can control, and I really like seeing that. And then they see this sword, basically, and they find themselves surrounded by, and by the way, like, before I get to that, let me just say, I like they had a conversation about time travel, because they never really discuss the idea of time travel, and I thought that was very interesting when they were talking about that. It's something that we don't really get to see, and I hope we see more of, because I think that was really cool. They then find themselves surrounded by Vikings, and the Doctor tries to intimidate them with his sonic sunglasses. My only thing this episode, and it's kind of funny, anytime they would show a promo for The Last Kingdom, I thought it'd be for Doctor Who, because the settings are very similar. But yeah, other than that, just a small thing there. The Doctor tries to intimidate them with his sonic sunglasses. One of the Vikings simply takes them from his face, snaps them in half. I mean, they obviously don't know what those are, and it was really funny, honestly. I was surprised by how funny this was. But we do realize that these Vikings, they return to the village, they're actually prisoners. And one of the welcoming party is Ashildr, played by Maisie Williams. We meet this girl, Ashildr, basically. And the group is escorting them and are greeted with much applause and enthusiasm from the townspeople, particularly a young girl named Ashildr. And Ashildr is a very interesting character. Something I liked about Ashildr, though, is the fact that she wasn't anything that special. She's just a normal little girl that obviously got to the Doctor and really made us, and that's why we should care about her, because she's a normal little girl and she's very powerful. She is given half of the broken sonic sunglasses by her father, and the Doctor manages to remove his shackles using his yo-yo, and I thought that was pretty funny. And she tells him this story about how she dreamed that they all died, and Ashildr and the Doctor look eyes as they pass, and Clara asks if the Doctor knows the girl, but he said he's never seen her before in his life, and I thought that was interesting that we saw that. Now, I was thinking maybe he's hiding something, but no, he's actually not. He actually doesn't know this girl, and something about this episode is that there's really no lying from the Doctor in this episode. He's telling the truth to Clara the whole time. He doesn't know who this girl is. He doesn't know where she's come from or anything. He doesn't really know much about her, and I like seeing that. Definitely, that was interesting. So the girl looks as if she has something in her hand, and the Doctor and Clara are presented by the town leader, and the Doctor slips out of his shackles and claims to be Odin, the Greek god Odin, calling a yo-yo his sign, and the villagers tell him he's not Odin. The Doctor asks if they've ever seen Odin, and just then Odin's face appears in the sky, and Odin says, "The warriors will feast in Valhalla tonight," and sends mechanical soldiers. The soldiers, called the Mire, begin choosing villagers to harvest, and Clara has Ashildr use a piece of the sonic sunglass to protect the villagers, but they are then taken, and already they were taken, and I thought that was pretty crazy that we saw that. And the Doctor tells Clara to stay still, but she fears for Ashildr, goes to help her. Clara tells Ashildr to put on the Doctor's broken sonic sunglasses, looks at Clara's shackles, thinks the word open, and unfortunately, they go there as well. But reality, the Vikings are actually they find themselves in Valhalla, and one of the Vikings leads the way, but some sort of power cascades through the chamber and kills him right away, and the walls begin to move to push the remainder into the energy chamber. The Vikings try to hold the wall, while Clara and Ashildr try to open the door on the other side. They're the only ones left. All the other ones died, and I thought that was interesting that they died. They lived while everyone else died. I definitely thought that was interesting. So, I like seeing that, and basically, this results in, basically, then we see, the doctor is in the village with the remainder of the townsfolk, and he tries to convince them that the Odin who appeared is false, and that he was lying, and that they were raided, and that he was just lying to them the whole time, and that there's no such thing, and that they should not believe a word he says. I thought that was a pretty funny scene. I enjoyed that overall. But then he tries to convince them that they were raided, and I definitely liked seeing that. And we then see that Clara wakes Ashildr, tells her to be quiet. Ashildr wonders why they're still alive. Odin and two Meyer appear, tell her that's because of the sonic sunglasses, and a piece dangling from his hand, and Clara apologizes for scaring Odin. Another Meyer appears, bringing Odin a vial of testosterone extracted from the finest warriors, and Clara asks if this is a war Odin really wants. Ashildr steps in and challenges Odin to a battle. Odin agrees to battle between the village and 10 of his warriors, and Clara asks why he's doing this, and Odin says for the joy of the war, then shows her his true alien face, and basically now they have a deal. So they've challenged him to, this war, basically, and that's basically what the remainder of this episode is training for the war, and I really love seeing that, I have to say. And while this could have just been a lot of setup, it's a lot more than that, which is something that I was very impressed by. I was thinking, okay, this is just going to be them training them. It's a lot more than that, which I definitely like seeing. So Clara and Ashildr return to the village. The doctor's pleased, assuming Clara convinced Meyer to leave, but Clara then explains that Ashildr declared war on them, and Ashildr apologizes. Her father explains that she thinks she brings the village bad luck, and the doctor tries to convince the remainder of the townsfolk to leave the village, but they refuse. Obviously, it's just not a good idea. Their warriors are all gone, leaving only farmers and fishermen. Clara knows the doctor can't leave these people to die, and, basically, the doctor tries to walk away, but Ashildr stops him, and he keeps going, and he just doesn't know if he's going to be able to help them. And the Clara finds the doctor outside, and he says it's just one village, and if they defeat the Meyer, then it could attract unwanted attention to Earth. And, the doctor doesn't want to obviously change history. He doesn't want to do that. They're in the 1600s right now. They're not in the modern times, so he really doesn't want to, chance that, and I understand that, but at the same time, the doctor needs to help them, because obviously they would help him. He helped them. He needs to help them, and, he definitely needs to do that. So, I thought that was interesting that we saw that, and Clara asked the doctor to translate, and then basically, Clara then asked the doctor to translate a baby crying. He decides to stay, and we realize he can translate a baby crying. Now, this is quite a funny scene, but it also was quite cool. I like, again, seeing that the doctor has more abilities. As the episodes go on, you start to realize how powerful, that the doctor can do more, and I like seeing that. So the doctor begins to try to train the villagers, and it's terrible. It's not working well at all. They're not good, obviously. It's not just it's not really working out, and wants to leave. I like seeing the doctor kind of not really knowing if he should be here and if he really can help them, because it's not really working. And basically we then see that Clara convinces him that he's missing something, and, he doesn't know what he's missing, but he thinks he's missing something. And the villagers eat, and outside, the doctor and Clara listen to the weapon forges of the Meyer spinning up, and Clara says training villagers to fight isn't very like him. He says he used to believe that before he met Clara, and, he knows that he's missing something, he just doesn't know what he is. However, then he has this conversation with Ashildr, because Ashildr is beating up a puppet Odin with a stick, and the doctor finds her there. He asks her what she thinks their changes are tomorrow. She says every single one of them is going to die. That she knows this is going to happen. It's inevitable. They're going to die, and, she knows that's going to happen. That's what's going to happen, because they're obviously not very good at what they do. They're not trained very well. It's just not going well. And Ashildr explains that she always has been strange and different from the others, but here she's loved, and she tells him that leaving this place would be death itself. And the doctor hears the baby crying again and remembers something she cried, and he remembers, something that the baby had said, and he realizes what he had missed, and he's filled with confidence and promises Ashildr they'll never have to leave the village. And basically it's because of the electric eels in the water. And he says that they will be great with the war and that they're gonna win and that there are electric eels in the water and that's gonna help them. Obviously, they're looking at him like he's insane, which I thought was pretty funny. Obviously, electric eels doesn't really seem like the best thing at this point. It really doesn't seem like that's gonna work out very well at all. But, that's what the doctor is thinking here, and they pray her through the night. The doctor tells them getting a helmet is the key, and they'll use Ashildr's monstrosity, and Odin and the Maya arrive for battle the next day and find the villagers dancing in the town hall. And I have to say, Odin was pretty threatening. Again, I like them using new villains that we haven't seen before, rather than, old villains that we do know. I like seeing them use some new people. I definitely like that. So the doctor tells Odin that they're unharmed, but Odin said he's fought civilians before. The villagers spring their trap using rigged electronics to shock the Mire and magnets to pull their helmets off, and the doctor takes on one of the helmets. Clara grabs one of their weapons. The doctor brings the helmet to Ashildr. She puts it on and reams up a giant snake creature to attack the Mire. It's a pretty crazy scene. They beam down and enter the Great Hall, and the doctor informs Odin they've decided not to fight and are actually having a party, and one of the villagers tosses metal rings on the armed warriors' helmets just as Owen realizes the ruse. The doctor calls out, and the soldiers are electrocuted by the eels. There are 6 left, so the doctor and Ashildr lure 2 of them in place by hiding behind a table, and basically the doctor takes one of his helmets, and I just read this, but basically the doctor confronts Odin, which I thought this was really funny the way he did this, actually. It's not exactly what I thought was going to happen, but the Maya retreat, Ashildr stops repaying, the snake is revealed to be a puppet. It's just a puppet, and we realize that Clara recorded the entire thing, so basically, this was really funny. It's recording the entire battle on Clara's cell phone with the Benny Hill theme added for extra effects and threatens to upload to the Galactic Hub unless he leaves, and I thought that was just hilarious. Just seeing this play with the Benny Hill theme over it was just priceless. I loved it. I thought that was definitely very funny. So Doctor threatens to show the embarrassing thing throughout the galaxy, and Odin promises he and the Doctor will meet again, but the Doctor sends him teleporting away, and I do feel we're going to see Odin again next week. I definitely feel that's going to happen because the Doctor said, look, we're going to meet again, and I think that's true. They are going to meet again, so I'm thinking that we're going to see Odin again next week. That's what I'm thinking, and the Doctor sends him teleporting away, the Maya ship departs, and everything seems to be okay. It seems like this is the end of the episode, which I really like seeing, and I just thought that was very interesting, but then things get really interesting, because he flees, the villagers celebrate until they realize that Ashildr is missing, they don't know where she went, and her father removes the Maya helmet, and Ashildr is dead. That's why this is called The Girl Who Died, because Ashildr is dead, and Peter Capaldi's performance in this next scene was just incredible. I absolutely loved what happens in this next scene. This was just crazy to watch, and I absolutely loved it. Clara follows the Doctor to a nearby building. The Doctor tells us that he's tired of losing people, and he has the ability to save people, but he can't because he has to follow the rules. And then he sees his reflection. He can't save people because he doesn't want to change history. He doesn't want to do something, and he sees his reflection in a pool, and this was really interesting. He suddenly realizes why he chose the face the 12th Doctor wears, because he sees it reminds him of Pompeii and when he was David Tennant and Donna's plea to save just one family. It's a revelation from the Doctor. He realizes that the reason he chose this face is because he's the Doctor and he saves people, and the hell with anyone who has a problem with that, and that was just incredible. I've been waiting for that scene ever since they keep showing it, in the promos, and I've been waiting for him to say that, and that was just so awesome when he said that. I thought that was just so awesome. I love seeing the Doctor get more and more aware of his abilities and, start to realize who he is more and more. I just love it. And it's something that they're doing very well, and I hope they continue to do that because that was truly awesome, and I absolutely love that scene. One of my favorite parts of this episode by far was that confession that he made. So the Doctor, basically, he revives Ashildr using a small medical chip from inside the Maya helmet, and it absorbs into her body, where it will remain. She awakens briefly, thank the Doctor. Before he leaves, the Doctor gives her father another medical chip for a person of her choosing, and arriving back at the TARDIS, the Doctor concedes to Clara that he may have just made an immense mistake. Something terrible might happen. Not only will the Maya medical chip heal Ashildr, it will continue to do so forever, effectively making her immortal. So the second chip is for her. Now, I really love this twist. This is, the way they made this a two-parter was very clever. It's not something like we have in the other two-parters. There's really no we're leaving the Viking village. That's not what's the Viking, that whole thing is over. And it's going to make her immortal. And the second ship is for her to save someone that she can't bear to lose, because immortality means watching those you love die. And not only is she immortal, but with the Meyer chip melded into her body, she's now a hybrid. So now he's made things even worse. And we see in the very end of the episode, we see that Ashildr stands on a hilltop as the days and nights pass before her unchanging body, and that's how the episode ends. So clearly, wherever the Doctor is going, Ashildr is going to follow them, and it looks like next week they're going to England. Actually, they're not going to the Viking village. They're going into England, and they're going to see Ashildr there, and definitely the Doctor is going to have to face what's happened here, which I think is definitely very interesting. So I thought that was definitely interesting what happened there and how this all worked out. I mean, I honestly I love that. I thought that was awesome that we saw that, because she was just this little girl, and seeing how much this got to the Doctor. I mean, he just doesn't want people to die, and he's really upset that people have to die, and now he's realized that he's made things even worse, and he feels really bad about it, and I really like seeing that. But what really made me love this episode as much as I did is Peter Capaldi's performance here, because this was a new kind of Doctor. This was a Doctor that really felt bad about what he was doing. There was no lying. There was nothing he was hiding in this episode. He honestly felt bad about what he was doing. He honestly didn't know if he could train these soldiers, and he didn't want to repeat history either. He's just trying to do the right thing, and I loved seeing a Doctor like that. It's really something we haven't seen from the Doctor before, and that was awesome. I absolutely love that. Maisie Williams in this episode was amazing. I absolutely loved Maisie Williams' performance in this episode. I really think she definitely is going to have more time in the next episode, but she was great here. I really love what they did there. Will the Doctor encounter Odin again? I really feel it's going to be something that is going to haunt him. If it's not this episode, then I feel like it's going to go maybe in the rest of the season. Eventually, some point, he's going to encounter Odin again this season. I'm just going to say that right now. Odin and him, they will meet again. I don't know when, but they're going to meet again, and we'll have to see what happens there, because that was definitely very interesting. Now, again, I don't know if we've seen Odin before. I'm assuming we haven't. I think we haven't, but I think that was definitely very interesting that we saw him in this episode. The scene where the Doctor realized why he had the face, I mean, that was just so fascinating, and I really love that. I love seeing the revelations like that. That's definitely something I really enjoyed. The Viking village, will they go back to the Viking village to return Ashildr there? I'm not really sure. For all we know, Ashildr could be like this for a while, and maybe we're going to see her for even after the next episode. I don't know. Maybe they're not going to wrap up things in the next episode. I really feel that the next episode is not going to be good as this one. I really don't think it's going to be, but I do think that this is going to be something that might not work, as easy as they think. This might actually take some more time, and I'd like to see that, actually. That'd be really interesting if that happened. If this doesn't take if it takes longer than the Doctor thinks it's going to, that could be very interesting. I don't know if that's the case, but it kind of seems like it is, and that's very interesting if it is the case, because that could be just very interesting, definitely. I know I keep saying that, but it honestly could be. I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen with that. I really loved the story of the Vikings overall. The way they made it funny, I definitely like that. I didn't expect it to be very funny, but it was, and that's something I really enjoyed. Clara in this episode I thought was great as well. I really loved everything about this episode. I really think this episode was the one that surpassed The Magician's Apprentice. The Magician's Apprentice was a great episode, but it didn't do what this episode did. We didn't have the Doctor feel genuine sorrow for someone. We didn't have the Doctor come face, have that revelation with who he is and why he's chosen this face. I mean, it felt so much like a season finale. That scene particularly felt like a season finale, and I know it's not the season finale, but it very much felt that way. We're only on episode 5, and already we're getting things that felt like a season finale, and I really do love that. I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen with that. Is the Doctor going to be able to fix Ashildr? I'm not really sure. We're going to have to see what happens here. What's going to happen in England? Obviously, there's going to be a new story next week, but what I like is that it's carrying over from this week's installment, which I like. I don't know if Doctor Who's really done something like that before, and I find that very interesting, that it's not going to be in the same setting. I really like that. They're finding new ways to do two-part episodes without having to drag out a story, Last week's was very much like that as well. We started in the future, and then we were in the past, and then we were back to the future, very much like that. But this is even different, because we go from the Viking setting to England. I mean, that's very different from what we had in this episode, and I'm interested in seeing really what's going to happen in the next episode. They did a good job as well with not making it like Game of Thrones, which I was worried it was going to be, but it wasn't at all like Game of Thrones. It was an amazing episode. I absolutely loved it. I think it's, definitely one of probably the best episode of season by far. Absolutely loved it. Even though I didn't have as much to say about it, I thought this was a fantastic setup, and it was so much more in the setup. It was a full-on story. It's just we're continuing it next week, and there's going to be a lot of aftermath and effects of what's happened in this episode. That's what's going to happen next week, and I can't wait to see what happens in that episode. But I don't know what you guys saw this episode. I thought it was absolutely incredible. By far the most surprising episode of Doctor Who this season, and the best episode of the season, in my opinion. I absolutely loved it. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for a movie review, which will be another 31 Days of Horror movie review, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.